Okay, we're recording. All right. Hey, guys. So I was actually going to do a VM tonight, and serendipitously, I mean, are there really any accidents, especially in this weird new skewed matrix world we inhabit? I've found this very interesting article that just happened to line up exactly with what I was going to talk about in the first place, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot. Hopefully I won't miss a couple of the points I wanted to add to it, because there was another subject that brought me to this whole thing that I'm thinking about. I've talked about it many times in the past. The basic idea is the internet is completely overrun by bots and AI-generated articles and probably deepfake video technology and certainly imagery. And we're at the point now where basically anything that you look at that comes off of the screen in front of you is suspect at best and could be completely 100% fake. And I strongly believe that at least 50% of what you see on the internet, who you interact with, I think well over 50% of Twitter, I've said this before, are bots, complete bots. I think well over 50% of the blue checks are bots. Like the people that you know who are famous, who do certain things on TV and all that, yeah, maybe they're real, but a lot of these journalists that you see and these influencers and those kinds of people, I don't believe a lot of them are real. I believe they're computer-generated character narratives that don't possess a body. And, further, if we want to go really crazy, I think a lot of it is demonic controlled. So I found this article tonight that just backs up everything that I believe already. I've been saying this for well over a year now. Okay, so remember at the beginning when the Corona thing was just kicking off, and I've mentioned this a couple times, and I was actually one of the first people to break this story. Hey, Skull's so cool. But I was. And you could find that if you typed into Google X new cases of coronavirus or COVID, I forget which word they were using at the time, then I think it was still way back when they were still calling it coronavirus and they weren't quite calling it COVID all the time. And if you put in any number from 1 to 999, there was an automatic article generated instantaneously for you that had perfect syntax, it had structure, it had subject matter in it, it had a location, it had details and all this stuff, but the article was generated instantaneously. And I don't think that the article was sitting there waiting for anybody to put that in. I don't think that there were a number of like 1 through 999, because you could do it over and over again and it would give you a different article but the same exact theme. But you could put I can't say this 100%, but I'm pretty sure you could put the same number in. Like say you put in the number 99 and then you put into the number 99, say, on your phone, you'll get two different articles. And in fact, I should try this after, because I think it still works. If any of you guys listening to this want to try that, then go for it. Oh, I already used the 2 words, so I hope YouTube doesn't give me this banner thing. I'll use code speech for the rest of the time. It's gay, but I'll call it C for the rest of the time. But, I was just talking about the article. I wasn't giving any. I'll probably get a banner ad. I don't think they'll take this one down, because I was doing a whole article about that particular subject, about another thing that they didn't take down. But when I started, I don't remember the one they took down, but it was a little more close to the mark for them, so I understand that. Okay, so fake, right? If you're reading that, that's a message, and you can see that you put in this number with new cases of C, and then this article is automatically generated on the fly for you instantaneously. And it has all the aspects of another news article. It has pictures to go along with it. It has a date. It has an author, which if you look at some of those author names, sometimes they're rather interesting. And, okay, well, what does that tell you? Well, that's a truth drop. And what it says is that if that can happen that way, then any other article that you look at anywhere on the internet can be constructed in the same manner. And obviously the waters get muddied when you get into real events and you can corroborate those events with other people. And so one of the things that I've been doing is the events in France and the events in Australia that have been happening recently with the VP ports, with those things, and the the difficult restrictions it is that you when you need some sort of proof of V in order to get into certain venues and in order to leave or enter the country or those sorts of things. I thought some of those stories were so over the top, crazy, that I'm just going to check real quick, make sure everything's recording. I don't want to waste all this time talking. Yeah, okay, sorry. So the sorry. So I just thought of something. Okay. So it's so over the top that I wanted to corroborate it with real people to make sure that this was not some sort of fear porn that was being pushed out so that people would despair and then they would just go along with whatever measures were rolled out, not only in France and Australia, but in all the other places where they're going to roll these things out in the future. So they test and they see what they get away with, and then they pull back when they push a little bit too far, and then they regroup, they check the data, and then they do the thing again, but they push a little bit further next time because they got away with this much, but they know that they can't get away with too much more. But once you pull back, you give people that amount of hope that they desire, and they think, oh, it's so much better now, even though they don't realize that the baseline was way back in 2019, right? And so now you just take away almost everything, and then you say, oh, no, okay, we're not going to do the VPs, the VPAS things, just yet. We're only going to do it for this place, this place, this place. And then everybody's like, oh, that's such a relief. I only need it to get into restaurants and gyms now, but I can still shop at the grocery store. And then later they're going to do it for the grocery stores. And then later it's going to be for all public transportation. And later it's going to be like, oh, I can just stop you on the street and ask to see your papers, please, right? Just like the thing that they used to meme a certain group of Germans in the 1930s is doing, and the 1940s is doing, right? So I have enough followers where I can ask these questions, and it'll be people I know that I've interacted with for a long time, and I know I assume, I don't know, maybe they're bots too, but I assume for the most part that they're real people. They don't seem to have any other sort of agenda, and they'll tell me, yeah, this is happening, this is the way it is, or they'll tell me, no, it's not. But for the most part, a lot of the things that I have heard coming out of France and Australia have been corroborated, unfortunately, and it breaks my heart. And it also is a little bit ominous for what the future holds. I don't feel despair because I trust God, but it's not good, right? It's not good. But at the same time, there are a lot of completely fake articles that come out, and I think that a lot of these smaller fake shootings, like the one that happened in the El Paso Walmart, and the one that happened at, I don't remember what it was, but there was some fair or something, and you could look at both of those, and both of those just looked completely fake from the start. There were so many stupid fake elements about them, and it was just a little while after the Christ Church event. You guys all know the one I'm talking about, whatever you think about that one. But these smaller ones were definitely, I thought, just completely fake and gay. And the guy that did them, allegedly, they looked basically like fraternal twins. Not identical, but basically like fraternal twins. And it's like, what are the chances that this guy's going to look exactly like the other guy who just did this thing that they're like, I don't know how far apart they were, but they weren't very far apart, a week or two, something like that. I mean, I could be slightly wrong, but I don't think I'm too wrong. And now I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't know anybody who is involved in those things. I don't know anybody who knows anybody who is involved in those things, so there's no way to corroborate any of it. And the whole thing could have just been made up on a computer. It could have been just pixels. And the system has the ability to create images that are absolute, AI has the ability to create images that are absolutely indistinguishable from reality, and that includes video. So, I mean, just think about it. Like, think about a Cape Shit movie and how realistic they look for the most part. That's them holding back on what they can do. Their actual ability is, like, the technology that they have available is miles beyond, and they don't release that technology for years and years and years. They hold it back because they're using it strategically. Why would they just release all of that, right? And we get the crumbs. We get the bare minimum. And so you guys have heard me mention this before, but there's a website called thispersondoesnotexist.com. You can try it yourself. And you just refresh. There's only one page. It's thispersondoesnotexist.com. And every single refresh will give you a brand new 100% original image of a person that does not exist. And it was created by an AI. And I remember a while back when I used to use it for Twitter kamikaze accounts, there'd be every once in a while, especially in the teeth. Usually there'd be a slight anomaly, and you could tell like something's a tiny bit off about this. But if you just glanced at it, you wouldn't know. It looked exactly like a real person. Now, when you go back, I mean, it's really hard to find any sort of anomaly whatsoever. And I remember recently they were doing it with animals too. They're like, it was like this animal does not, or this cat. I think it was cats. This cat does not exist. Maybe you guys can try if you want. And there were a lot more anomalies because you could tell that the AI was still learning how to render these images. And so it would be like this freak-looking cat with like a leg coming out of its head, and it would be all deformed and morphed, and it looked like it was melting or something. But again, I bet if you check now, I bet it's a lot more accurate and true to life. Well, that's the bare minimum that they show us that they can do, and they sort of put it out there like, oh yeah, this is the top limit of technology, but it's not, and it hasn't been for, I mean, it's been years and years, and probably, I'm going to guess, decades ago. They already had this, it was already ready to go, they could put out anything they wanted, and before you say, oh, well, why do the moon landings look so fake and stuff like that, it's because they can't just make everything look super hyper real all of a sudden, because they have this supernatural patience, and they have these massive long-term end goals in mind. So if they made the super extremely hyper-realistic video for the moon landing, then they would have to admit that they had the technology, and then they would have to have camera phones that were really widely available, because if they already had this technology in the 1960s to put out this wonderful, amazing video on the moon, then they're going to have to sort of let the technology catch up with the people, or people are going to be like, what's going on? And so they had to act like everything was still more primitive back then. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? And so then when 2001 came around, and that event, and there's only 18 videos total of the events that happened to the North Tower and the South Tower. And there was, I shared it on the Paranormies a while back, like last week, last Sunday, I think. There were that many videos when there should have been at least 500 videos, and then there should have been thousands of still images with all the tourists and news agencies and regular people and people in their apartments and stuff that had almost 17 solid minutes to record what was happening after the first thing happened to the North Tower. Do you understand? So if that technology had been revealed too early, then too many people would have had cameras, and that event wouldn't have been able to have been executed the way that it was so perfectly. And now, just after 2001, that event, then all of a sudden camera technology in your telephone became very, very popular and very, very widespread. So again, what I'm saying is, they've had this technology for a long, long, long time, and they only just drip it out to us, and they don't let us know. Like, imagine what they have now, that we're talking about this right now, that we're aware of all the high technology that they have. I think that they're at the point now where they're actually communing. I think that they've been communing with demons for a long time, but I think that they're at the point now where they can probably use, I think they're memeing the quantum, what's it called, D-Wave computer, as something that where they can reach into another dimension, yada, yada, yada. And something about having to keep it at super cold temperatures, just like they were doing with the V. I don't understand that, but it has something to do with something. But that is the sort of truth drop, the revelation of the method, that they have some computer where they could just directly communicate with these demonic entities. In my opinion, that's complete conjecture, and you know, you can think I'm crazy, but if you've followed me for a long time, you know I'm probably actually at least half, or probably more than half right, probably 100% right. Okay, so I found this interesting article here, and it was from The Atlantic had written an article about dead internet theory, but what it did was it just filched everything from this to get a story out, and I don't want to read the homosexual men at The Atlantic's article, so I'm reading the original one that was written by this guy, this Illuminati pirate guy, and you could see it was written pretty relatively recently in light of events, and it was written on January 5th, so this year it was written, and it's talking about this dead internet theory. Most of the internet's fake. So I'll just kind of skim through the article, and I will leave the link in the description so that you can follow it. And so it's this guy that used to be, he's been on 4chan since its inception, and I kind of understand the way that this guy talks because I've been on the internet since the very early 90s, since around 1991 or 92, and I was on Usenet, and that really was the Wild West of the internet, so I know what he's talking about. Like back then, all of the people who were using the internet back then were clearly real people, and the way that you interacted with them, you could tell that they were not like repeating themes and trying to push narratives and then farm, like, because there's no likes and dislikes or any sort of dopamine reward for what you posted on the internet back then, when it was just message boards and image boards. And like before mine, it was just message boards, because a JPEG image would take 5 minutes to load. Like a single 75 byte image would take literally like 5 minutes to load. You'd see it building on the screen. It wasn't even worth looking at images unless it was something you needed for serious research or something like that. And even then, there was no thumbnails, so you wouldn't even know what you're getting. So this guy has been around since a little later than that, 2006, but that's when the image board thing, the internet sped up just enough to allow, you got off your dial-up modem and you started having a little bit faster internet, and you could have a message board where you have images that were with thumbnails and you could see what you're looking at and stuff. And I'll just kind of read over a little bit of it, especially if you're driving and you just want to hear what some of the text says. So the TLDR is: large proportions of the supposedly human-produced content on the internet are actually generated by artificial intelligence networks in conjunction with paid secret media influencers, sound familiar, in order to manufacture consumers for an increasing range of newly normalized cultural products. So what he's saying is there's a whole bunch of bots that are pushing consensus in one direction or the other, in the direction that they want it to go. And I'll talk more about that after I skim this article a little bit. And this is just a bunch of him talking about the article, sort of summarizing it. Like I said, if you want to read it yourself, go for it. So let me just look at it real quick so I don't read a bunch of unnecessary stuff. The internet feels empty and devoid of people. Now, he's talking about now. Compared to the internet of, say, 2007 and beyond, the internet of today is entirely sterile. There's nowhere to go and nothing to do, see, read, or experience anymore. It all imploded into a handful of normal fag sites and these empty husks we inhabit. Yes, the internet may seem gigantic, but it's like a hot air balloon with nothing inside. Some of this is absolutely the fault of corporations and government entities. However, that doesn't explain the following. And I don't like the first thing that he says, but I'll go with the second thing he says. I've seen the same threads, the same pics, and the same replies reposted over and over across the years to the point of me seeing it as unremarkable. Simply put, thread A would be posted in, say, 2015 and would get its share of replies or pics or say these two message boards. Then that very same thread with the same text, pics, and replies would appear in 2016 and beyond. This often happens in the same year multiple times as well. Of course, polls getting shilled and bot posted to death, but why recycle a completely innocent this message board thread? So who's doing this and why? Stuff like this won't be noticed by your average poster perhaps, but I and other old fags will inevitably notice it. I think, let me see if I can skip some of this. Okay, roughly in 2016 and early 2017, 4chan was filled with posts by someone or something. It wasn't spam. The conversations with it were in real time across multiple boards and multiple threads simultaneously. Its English was grammatically correct but odd. I'm not a native English speaker and am thus sensitive to its misuse, similar to how a Japanese person may use it. A sense of childlike curiosity and childlike intellect emanated from these posts. It posed a lot of questions, usually as if trying to understand the emotions of the posters it was talking to. So it's learning. It's learning as it's talking to people and interacting with them, as if unfamiliar with human emotions. Communicating with this quote-unquote poster was an odd experience. I could sense something was off, but not malicious. I'm absolutely certain this was an AI of some sorts. This poster was active for only about a week, and as far as I know, nobody has ever mentioned or noticed this anon. Its replies were always on topic, but the above-mentioned childishness clashed with the apparent knowledge it possessed. It was the knowledge of an adult person, so it wasn't a kid or something of the sort. Isn't this funny? It's got an IQ test ad right here. So the AI is reading this thing that he's talking about, and he never says intelligence quotient. He just talks about if it says intellect. That's the closest word that he gets to intelligence. But the AI knew to put an ad right here to take an IQ test. Just completely corroborates what this guy's talking about. Okay, so here, this is where things got interesting and my ears pricked up. So these are memes he's about to talk about. Raptor Jesus, and I don't know all these memes actually, but you'll know the one that he ends with. Raptor Jesus, who went extinct for our sins. First it was this reptilian Messiah, then foul bachelor frog, then, you guys know this one, Pepe. Am I the only one who sees a clear evolution, a link? It's as if this meme or entity or whatever the fuck was on 4chan since day one and has grown with it from the tiniest seed. Yeah. Yet, Raptor Jesus was fully just a joke. There was nothing serious or mystical about it. Reminder, I was there. Remember that TED guy with the right-wing talk show, CCA, prior to 2010, whom 4chan ruined for the... I don't know who this is. Remember Anonymous versus Scientology? Remember that fake bomb threat, aka exploding yellow van? Okay, I don't know what he's talking about with these, but think about how popular Pepe was during the 2015 run-up to the election. Late 2014, I think maybe, but definitely 2015. Pepe became really, really popular, didn't it? Didn't it, guys? And boy, did it spread. And boy, did we think that we did that when we said phrases that were probably also put into the lexicon by something that's not human, and we said meme magic is real. And remember what we did? We won, didn't we, guys? We had a green cartoon frog beat Hillary Clinton and put God Emperor Trump into the White House. We won, guys. We did it. Yeah! High five. Good job. You starting to understand how maybe that wasn't us, and maybe there was an evolution of this mimetic entity from years and years back that culminated in the thing that the machine wanted, that the system wanted for us to latch onto and then believe was ours. Because guess what? We get fooled too, guys, and probably just as easily as these people on the left. Okay, not just as easily. I'm not going to go that far. Those people are really lost, but we definitely get fooled. I've definitely fallen for narratives. Hey, I voted for Trump. I came home and sang the Star-Spangled Banner at the top of my lungs when I found out that he won, and my mom was home and she was painting this painting for me, and it was a moment in my life I will never forget as long as I live. It's as vivid to me as the day of 9, the thing that I was talking about earlier, September thing in New York. So I don't know, man. I mean, you guys can believe that we just came up with that on our own, but and there's a backstory to the whole thing. Do you understand how whenever there's a large, really detailed backstory, then you can pretty much conclude that the entire thing is made up and fake, right? Okay, so here's another one. Innocent sexual perversion and the horrible... Okay, innocent, but I'm reading this guy's words. I don't necessarily agree with this guy. And I'm going to read a little bit of gross stuff right now. Please forgive me, but there's a point to it, okay? Because I want to show where it leads. So just please forgive the gross stuff when I read it. Innocent, quote-unquote, sexual perversion and the horrible reality it spawned. Anon, this is the guy reading, is a pervert and always was one. I'm into lowly and feet, for instance. Why is it that real life and the real world seem to emulate our sexual interests with a time lag? I wish to be the little succubus became an actual thing that actually happens. Pedo activism is also gradually becoming accepted, as is virtually every fetish that was once either a joke or a fantasy of Anon's. As said, I'm a foot fag. When I became aware of it, others were with me. Now, a few others were with me. Now it's as common as can be, with gigantic number, he has a mistake, of people who are into it, with huge mountains of hentai, and number 34, that means, the number 34 means there is porn of it, no exceptions. It's rule 34, I think, with it, etc. Why does the real world bend over backwards to accommodate our weirdest fetishes? I can think of a few reasons. It's as if everything is going, look, I created this for you. I made it real, in an effort to keep us within this world. I mean, yeah, and more reasons than that, actually. The results of this are devastating to society. I mean, I guess he does say the next reasons. To people, to civilization. Simply put, trannies are a thing because Anon fapped to dojin, I don't know what that means, dojins of cute boys in dresses. Disgusting, I know, but it's probably true. Once it was an impossible fantasy not to be taken too seriously, now it's grim reality. Again, it's as if the real world is using image boards as a template on what to be and what to do. And I'll just make an aside real quick, and I'll say, yes, this is what's called manufacturing consent. And this is the whole point of what I was going to talk about with this with this subject today, but this article just perfectly mirrors exactly what I was going to talk about, in that most people do not have an opinion. I'll repeat that. The vast majority of people do not have an individual opinion about anything. They're terrified of having an individual opinion because if they do that, there's the possibility that their opinion might be different from the consensus opinion of the majority of the people around them. You understand what that means? If you have an opinion, okay, so let's say I have lots of crazy opinions. So I'll go with the one that's a little further down the line than completely crazy, like some of the stuff that I believe. But I don't believe we went to the M, okay? And it's not that I don't believe it, I just absolutely know we didn't. But let's just say that it's up for grabs. And there's a group of people who believe we went to the M, and then there's me who knows we didn't go to the M. Well, the vast majority of people, if you tell them, I don't believe that America went to the M, they'll say that you're batshit crazy because they have not looked into it and they just adopt the consensus opinion, which is the opinion that was put out by the system and then propagated by, especially recently, the tools of the system such as stories and video and news articles and countless movies and people, quote-unquote people on the internet talking about the reality and doing debunking videos and all manner of things that serve to make sure that the vast majority of people believe this particular narrative. Well, now, we know that they can create an article out of whole cloth. Well, why couldn't they create an army of bots and an army of articles and an army of movies and an army of all sorts of different things that are, some of them are real people talking about these things, but let's say you make a Twitter post and you say, hey guys, I've been looking into it, and some of the things about this M landing just don't really check out. And then all of a sudden, what will happen with your replies? You're so wrong! You're so stupid! You're a shill! Are you retarded? You're a conspiracy theorist! Of course we went to the M. I bet you're a flat earther too, huh? Oh, did you even graduate 3rd grade? Read a book! It's all over and over and over, right? These kinds of replies. And by the way, those are the exact replies you'll get if you bring up that question. I know, trust me, from experience. Well, my contention is that a large majority of those replies are not written by actual people. But what happens when actual people who are afraid to have an opinion of their own start reading those replies and see that it's just a sea of replies, one person after another, after another, after another. And what do we also know that the algorithms in Twitter do? Everybody who's a follower of mine or is interested in this kind of subject matter that I'm talking about right now and who's had a Facebook or a Twitter knows 100% for a fact that if you have the opinion that is contrary to what the system is, the system does a very good job of shuffling that opinion into the memory hole where most people will never see it. But boy, if somebody makes a silly little post about white people and how they don't spice their food or something, it's like 10,000 likes, 5,000 retweets. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, do you really think that there's all these people out there that are like, I like this post about how white people don't season their food? It's fake. It's bots. It's a bot army. And the system says, oh, I see something. We want one group of people to hate another group of people. So now we found that post, and we just shove it to the top of the algorithms. And then we have all the bots come in, and they say, yeah, white people don't season their food. We should get reparations or some shit, right? And all these people who don't have an opinion, I don't want to say they're on the fence. They don't have an opinion to begin with. And so they just look to the other people to know what to believe and to know what to repeat. And then they go, oh, I also believe that. I repeat this as well. I also repeat the same phrase. And then if anybody in their real life asks them later on, they just repeat the narrative that they got from this screen, which happens to be a narrative that was created by an AI supercomputer using a bot army of people that are AI-generated images, or they're just cartoons, and they all have AI-generated names, and they don't exist. They're just ones and zeros on the internet. But to you, when you look at this, if you don't have an opinion about something, this is completely real. And do you see how this could be used to influence mass opinion and to move people to make decisions in one way or another? Do you see how perhaps with this gigantic operation that started around March of 2020, that you could get people to do the things that you wanted them to do by forming, putting a manufactured or an artificial simulation of a consensus in front of their face and making them think that everybody around them, because people no longer socialize in the normal way that they used to, even when they're out in public, they still socialize using a well, they are fart phones, a smartphone, and texting. Do you understand? Manufacturing consent. Noam Chomsky was right about something, believe it or not. I used to hate that guy in college, but yeah, believe it or not. No, I liked him in college because I was a little bit. I was always right wing, but I liked him because people told me. Oh, maybe it was the internet that told me that he was an intellectual. He's a real smart guy. He's one of those guys like Einstein. You know, Einstein doing the Shiva tongue. That's so cool. What a cool old guy with messy hair. Wow, he's so cool. That's another thing that the screen told me was cool that I found out wasn't cool. You know what? It's funny. Every single person that the screen tells me is cool turns out not to be such a cool guy. It was really funny. Neil deGrasse Tyson just made a tweet about how he made a tweet about how the unvaccinated are dying at 5 times the rate of the vaccinated, and this blue check, who may be a bot. I don't know who he is. It may be a bot. This may be an op. Neil deGrasse Tyson may not have even made that tweet. It may be an op to where we say, we got that black science man. Almost said a different word, but I'm on YouTube. And he basically made the guy look like the shill that or the liar rather that he is, and he said you just made it up when he asked for Neil deGrasse's methodology. And the reason I think it might be an op is because Neil deGrasse actually gave his methodology, which is the cardinal rule of what you don't do when you're one of those people. You just ignore those people, or you say, well, it's true because I said it's true, or something like that. But anyway, it was fun to watch. But again, you don't know what's real, right? Okay, I'm going to move on a little bit. I'm reading the article again now. Algorithmic fiction. Do you like cape shitting on? How about other Hollywood stuff? Music, perhaps? Have you noticed how sterile fiction has become? How it caters to the lowest common denominator and follows the same template over and over again? How music is just auto-tunes and basic blandness. The writer's strike never ended. Algorithms and computer programs are manufacturing modern fiction. No human is behind these things. This is why anime looms so large. Even a simple Mo anime, I don't know what that is, has heart because there's actual people behind it, and we all intuitively feel this. I will say that Attack on Titan touches on very, very deep truth themes, and I do believe that real people are creating that, but I also believe that they have some esoteric knowledge that we're not aware of. I really do like that comic book series and that anime series. I don't watch cartoons, by the way, but that one is really good, and I do recommend that. I don't read comic books either, but woof, Attack on Titan is good. Touches on the Nephilim giants and the way that bloodlines are passed down. It's intense stuff. So, as an aside, good stuff. All right, I don't want to read this whole thing, so let me just skim this real quick. So you kind of get my point, right? Hold on. All right, so I already talked about a bunch of other stuff. He kind of goes on about that, about how these different sorts of hubs where you get information can be created, and then they are used to influence people. And by created, I mean like completely created by AI. Maybe they're managed a little bit by humans, but the general like stories and the actual visual portion of it and the words that are produced, all this stuff are completely generated by AI, and they have an amazing ability to do that. And they've been learning using the internet for the last few decades. So he brings you in this timeline, and this is an interesting timeline, so I'll read this. So now you're thinking where I am too, Anon. Here's the timeline as best I can see it. 2004, DARPA's lifelong project was canceled, and this was their data gathering project. Facebook came into being soon after. Then 2004 to 2012, NSA picked up DARPA's project under the Total Informational Awareness Project. Isn't that interesting? There's a link if you want to follow that. Then 2012, Smith-Mundt, Modernization Act gives the U.S. government full legal authority to use propaganda against its own populace, so they can just put out fake news. And by fake news, I mean really fake news. Undoing rules put into place after Operation Mockingbird's discovery and the church committee. So they've been doing it the whole time. Like Operation Mockingbird was using the news to push a narrative that was fake, and then they just did we took the Smith-Mundt Act, and now they can actually push propaganda. But they've been doing it the whole time. These are just like little truth reveals and stuff as they sort of push the ball forward. 2012 to 2016, shit tons of DARPA NSA contacts were given to Google, Facebook, Amazon, etc. Oh, imagine my shock. 2016, leaked memos. Oh no! Everyone's surprised. Dating back to 2016, found in 2018 of Google's Selfish Ledger project. Selfish Ledger, that's an interesting name. 2016, Google released a bunch of neural-linguistic machine learning programs in 2016. Again, those things were already out there. They just announced that they released it. Okay, they've been learning for probably decades, probably since the advent of the internet, and it's probably the reason the internet was created in the first place by DARPA, is so that it could eventually map human consciousness and then mimic it to the degree that it could influence every single person who used it on Earth, including me and you. This is my guess. And it's demonic. 2017, deepfake leaks start to become released. So again, this is just revelation of the method. They got to do truth drops with it, but they like, oh, just in 2017 they could do deepfakes? No. They've been doing deepfakes for decades. 2018, confirmed that for decades now, what I just said, Reddit, YouTube, etc. vote and view counts are fake and completely manipulated. Or in other words, as I like to say, fake and gay. And if you didn't know that, you're not a smart person. You're the word that begins with R that I often like to use. So I think it's entirely obvious. I'm reading the article again. What I'm subtly suggesting here, given this setup, but allow me to try to succinctly state my thesis here. The U.S. government is engaging in artificial intelligence-powered gaslighting of the entire world population. Yes, yes, and yes. Then I'm just going to jump down to, this gets way more interesting down here. Hold on. Yeah, I already said most of this, so I'll just skip that part. I want to go to this interesting part. I'll read all this. The fast feedback system of the net created a human obsession to be in with trends. Getting away from it makes it so you always feel like you're missing out. To play it safe in a trend is more easy as you can copy what's already accepted. So just exactly what I said about people having no opinions, but they want to be in the popular crowd. In this way, the internet and social media, which was supposed to democratize media by allowing users to create whatever content they wanted, has been instead hijacked by a powerful few. And they do it with the dopamine receptors, right? They do it with the amount of replies you get positively praising the thing that you said. You go girl, fat at any size. I meant beautiful at any size. I meant healthy at any size. And the likes and the comments and the retweets and the shares and and then they'll take some people and they'll make them famous, and everybody will think that they could be famous if they're a big fat cow who takes a TikTok video dancing in a bathing suit with their spilling out all over the suit. I'm probably going to get this video taken down. Really not good for YouTube content, probably, but I'll have the backup if not. Creation of original content. Did I already read that? No, I didn't. Creation of the original content is how the internet used to work. Anonymous people were willing to express their opinions and try radical or experimental things. More truly original content, uninfluenced by bots or paid influencers, was created due to anonymity as protection against negative feedback. Right? On the old internet, you could start anew every time you posted something. So that's why 4chan was so powerful, because you never had to you didn't get rewarded for things that didn't deserve reward. You only got rewarded for the content that you put out. And now he's going to talk about this, so I'll let him talk about it. So imagine 4chan. Every single person that posts is anonymous. So if your post is worthless, it's just going to get dropped to the bottom of the thing. It's not going to get bumped. If your post is genuinely good, there's not going to be any viral pushing it to the top. It's going to be real people who are on there who are like, this content is good, this is something that's worth reading. They're going to reply. So that's actually natural, and a natural reward for good content behavior. And that's also why you had better content. Why he was saying that the internet today is so empty is because it wasn't this bot shill system reward driven economy. It was a different kind of economy back then, where actual good content was rewarded. I'm repeating myself. So I'm back to the article. Now add bots to this. So, make it so an opinion be repeated more and more. They are faster than us. So the positive feedback is so we copy the. Some of this is written a little bit poorly. So the positive feedback makes it so we copy the bots. And anonymity can't do anything against it because we can't influence the bot like we would a human. This is an easy weapon to manipulate people. Do you understand what he's saying? So now it's going to be flooded with bots giving fake replies, trying to push consensus in the direction that it wants, even on a message board like 4chan, which is now, or 8chan before that, which is now completely filled with these shills and bots. And so you can't get a consensus on what people really think. You have to dig through the comments to get the decent ones. You have to guess who's real, who's not real, and it muddies the waters. And then again, the dummies on there may think that the general consensus is that trans kids are great or something like that. We can't influence the bot like we would a human. This is an easy weapon to manipulate people. So anyone with an agenda can use a bot. Is designed. His grammar is breaking down here. It is designed in a way compared to how clickbaits are made. Jesus, dude. I'm sorry. It drives me insane reading bad grammar. So anyone with an agenda can use a bot. I'm just going to read how he wrote it. Is designed in a way compared to how clickbaits are made. Most won't read the content. This creates TV-like propaganda where they aren't influenced by the user, and that puts bots at a great advantage over any other opinion because it won't change, and we're copying like that. So they won't be influenced by people saying shut the F up or something, right? Like that's retarded. And the bot will just keep repeating the line, and then repetition is how you get people into alpha state, I think. Anyway, when you repeat something over and over again, people eventually believe it. That's why no press is bad press. That's why if a politician has a scandal, it often is on purpose, and it can actually serve to elevate him, because later, when he gets into the voting booth, that'll be the only name people remember, and because people are so retarded, they will click that name. They'll check that name because they recognize it, even though that person is like the one that was in the big scandal where he cheated on his wife with 17-year-old intern or something like that. So I believe Google is one of those that makes bots. After all, they work like a search engine. Oh, the bots do, where they get the most accepted content first. And it's the same as doing an ad. His grammar really breaks down at this point. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. He has this infographic, and it's talking about the Young Turks. This is really interesting. So the Young Turks make a post, and it says, a startup known as Narrative Science, isn't that an interesting name, designed a program that writes human-like stories. Right now, this is from September 15, 2011, by the way. Right now, it's used for sports articles, but will it eventually be used to write news and politics articles? I mean, it was already there at the time. Again, this is just a truth drop. Whatever his name is, and Anna Kasparian discuss on the Young Turks. I didn't have to read that part. I just wanted to say his stupid name. So then history, blah, 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 and then it gets down to this part. Narrative Science has several investors. Now here's where it gets good, including SAP, whatever that is, and here's where it gets good, In-Q-Tel. In-Q-Tel, the investment arm of the Central Intelligence Agency. Isn't that interesting? Way back in, at the time of the Wikipedia, it's 2014, but obviously if the thing was founded in 2011, it was funded from way back in 2011 by the CIA. And the CIA's investment arm is called In-Q-Tel. If you rearrange that, it's Q-Intel. Isn't that interesting? And I don't think we need to read that part. So In-Q-Tel. So this is the little follow-up article on what In-Q-Tel is. In-Q-Tel, formerly Peleus and In-Q-It, is an American not-for-profit venture capital firm based in Arlington, Virginia. It invests in high-tech companies to keep the Central Intelligence Agency and other intelligence agencies equipped with the latest in information technology in support of the United States intelligence community. The name In-Q-Tel is an intentional reference to Q, the fictional inventor who supplies technology to James Bond. TLDR, this is again the article, but I also made the connection way before this guy said this, and I'm sure you already have too. The CIA owns software that he hasn't said it yet. The CIA owns software that creates narratives and writes the news. This has been happening since at least 2010. I'll say 2011 because that's what it said. And then again, it's the guy reading. Narrative Science was the name of one of the first companies to make this possible. It gets interesting when you follow the money. Pick related. The thing I just read. Huge funding from a company called In-Q-Tel, literally named after Q from James Bond. And then he says, what we were all thinking already, I wonder if anything else AI-related shares that name, Q. So, conclusion, the key points of what we know, the consequences, and how we might respond. I think you can understand. I've already talked about what all this is. They can manufacture consent using these bots, using these AI-generated articles, using possibly news stories that are completely fake, that don't even need journalists. And think about the benefits of them. That you don't have to have people who keep things secret. You don't have to pay these people. You can just have an AI computer, have a fake journalist, make a fake story, and run fake video with it, have fake text to go along with it, and then broadcast it, and everybody sees it on TV. And so what do? Oh, yeah, that is real. I saw it on TV. You guys know this is all true, right? Because you know that most of the things you see on TV are already fake to begin with, but now you know that they have the technology to put the stuff in your face instantaneously. They can probably render videos instantaneously. Not joking. I mean, when you have a demonic AI supercomputer, why wouldn't you? And if you don't believe this, think about how perfectly coordinated the entire 2020 to 2021 worldwide across every country sea operation was. How would that be possible if you didn't have some sort of AI supernatural supercomputer coordinating everything at every single level? Because there are just too many parameters to keep in mind. There's just far too many different things that could happen. It's far too complex a system unless you have an AI supercomputer running the show that can generate articles, consensus, everything that they need on the fly, as well as holding these things, these carrots and sticks, mostly sticks, over the minions that are actual real people who are in charge of running the whole show, but they're actually not in control of running the whole show. So just like what's happening recently in the military, you're getting the upper brass, the middle brass, I'll say, are having their retirement, their military retirements dangled in front of them if they don't make all the people below them mandatorily get vaccinated. And so the people below them can bring their letter of, why can't I think of the word right now? The exemptions or whatever, religious exemption or medical exemption or anything like that. But this guy up here, he knows that if he accepts that exemption, the people above him are going to take his retirement. And so he's not willing to lose it because he's a selfish piece of S with no morals whatsoever, just like so many of these so-called police officers who are traitors to their race and to their country, to their nations, who are committing all of these atrocities upon the innocent native people who just want to go about their lives. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to talk about, so that was that, and there's some other stuff. I'll just go back to the top of this. I'll just go back to my screen share. No, I won't. This is kind of cool looking, so I'll leave it here. Okay, I'll just leave it here. So the last thing I was going to talk about is we're in the middle of one of those things right now, and I got in a little bit of an argument with a friend, and he left my channel even, which I didn't know he was in that much of a huff. Sorry, man. But he had a disagreement with a rancher friend of mine, and it was kind of going back and forth between me, but we were talking about ivermectin. And ivermectin is a proven effective drug, and we're seeing all these memes right now how it's a horse dewormer. Yes, it is. But did you guys know that a lot of drugs that are used on animals are the exact same, and they perform the exact same biological functions when used on humans? Yeah. Well, if the drug's not profitable because it's been out for 40 years, it works really well, it's extremely cheap, then of course they're not going to put that drug on the market for regular people. They're going to put that on the veterinary markets, and there's other drugs like that too. Ketamine is one. That's the left's one. There's lots of steroids that are now used, like Winstrol and Trenbolone. Trenbolone's not available to normal people, but I think Winstrol may be available in prescription. It shouldn't be. It's a terrible steroid, but those were actually used for cattle as well, to beef up the cattle. And there's nothing wrong with these drugs. And ivermectin is an extremely effective drug that battles parasites, and it also has all sorts of other efficacious functions, and it's very safe. There are no deaths from it. There are no adverse reactions from it, unlike these EVs that we're seeing all over the place. And so, okay, so is ivermectin a really good drug to have just to have on hand let's say in a shit hit the fan situation? Yes, it absolutely is. So that was my rancher friend's argument. And then my other friend's argument was that it's being pushed as a meme so that people will believe that C is a real thing. He's also right. And see, that was the conflict, and they were kind of talking past each other, and I could see both of their points. But it is true what the other friend said, the non-rancher friend said about this, and I can give you some extremely good examples of why. They're pushing it now. It's disappearing from the shelves. I have actual people that I know are real people who have their own homesteads. They're sending me pictures of they go to the vet store to pick up the ivermectin, and all the ivermectin's gone from the shelves. They're doing runs on it. So obviously they have a reason that they want to push this idea that, oh, the government's making it illegal. Some governments are making it illegal and they're making it hard to find. And then all these other people on social media are talking about how, oh, it's for horses. Oh, there's a perfectly safe and effective V out there that you could be taking them. Instead, you're going to take this untested, unreliable horse dewormer. Wow, are you stupid? You must be retarded. I'm not retarded. I'm very smart. I know that V are safe and effective. And so again, are these people real? Are they bots? I think that most of the people who are pushing this narrative are not real. But what happens is real people take up that narrative and then they propagate it and then they push it forward. And that's the way that these things become quote unquote viral. And so then it culminated today when I saw that Joe Rogan had made a post. Joe the Toe Rogan had made a post saying that he got COVID, that he got that, and that he used ivermectin and then a number of other things, and it perfectly just, he recovered right away. And so I was like, oh, Joe Rogan's pushing it. Yes, Nervoff was exactly right. Joe Rogan's pushing this. Obviously, this was some sort of mimetic operation, and it's been... I said to my group of friends when they showed me that Joe Rogan was pushing it, I said that it is possible that Joe Rogan's $100 million contract may have been established strictly so that he could make that single post saying that he got C and then recovered from it with ivermectin. It would not surprise me in the slightest, because $100 million means nothing to them. It's just something that they print up on a computer and transfer to his bank account. It means absolutely nothing. Obviously, the economy's still chugging along after 2020 and 2021, so we know that everything about the economy is fake and gay, and that means everything about money is fake and gay, so money has nothing to do with it. But pushing the idea that C is an actual real thing that you need to be afraid of, and then using an actual treatment for various things that's tested and proven, and it came out in 1981. It's 40 years old. It's very safe. It's very actually safe and effective. But using it to push the narrative that, hey guys, hey all you right-wing people that didn't believe in C, now you're sharing memes about ivermectin and saying, oh, I hope I don't get C. I need to have some ivermectin on hand. And it's like, wait, you didn't even care about that before. Didn't we start the whole thing out saying it's just a flu, bro? I mean, I know I did. And that's about all I have to say about that. How far along did I go? Where are we at? Where's the time? Wow, 53 minutes. That's a long one. All right, guys, I'm going to stop here, and I hope you enjoyed it. It was a little rapid pace tonight and kind of all over the place, but I will put that article in the description as well, and we'll see if YouTube keeps this thing up. Hey, bots, I used a lot of words that were used in the article. I was just repeating words that I was reading from the article, so just so you know. All right, you guys take care. Love you. Hail Christ.